If you're a business owner or investor, it probably comes as no surprise to you that Singapore has one of the freest economies in the world. And if you're a frequent viewer of our channel, it also probably comes as no surprise that the United States and other Western countries have been slipping in the rankings of economic freedom over the years. But there are some countries which are ranked as economically free, which you probably never even think about. And today, I'm going to share 8 surprisingly free economies. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where they're treated best, from lower taxes, moving their business offshore, second passports, investments in new boom markets like some of the ones we'll talk about today. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com and read close to 2,000 free articles there also. So every year, the Heritage Foundation, kind of a libertarian conservative think tank in the United States, looks all around the world and puts together their rankings of economic freedom. They call it the Index of Economic Freedom. It's been coming out for decades. I remember following this even as a child. My dad would come home back with a literal clipping from the Wall Street Journal where they would reference this and they would say, Hong Kong and Singapore are some of the freest economies. That hasn't changed. What has changed over the years is the United States has now dropped to number 17. Other Western countries have dropped. And what you've got is a total of 37 countries that are either free economies. There's only 6 of those, and there are 31 that are mostly free. Okay, so a total of 37 countries. I looked through those 37, and I'm going to share with you some that I think stand out that you might not think about. Number 11, coming in ahead of the United States, is Taiwan. Now, I'll give you a moment for all the geopolitical commenters to leave their feedback. All right, so Taiwan gets props from the index for reasonable government spending, relatively low levels of taxation, excellent property rights, which is something that people are very concerned with, of course. And so I think especially for larger businesses, Taiwan ranked very highly. It's a great place to go and start a business and to do business on a large scale. Number 12, country that we've talked about for a long time, is Georgia. You wouldn't even be talking about Georgia if it weren't for me. But the Heritage Foundation has slowly been talking about Georgia as well. They've been seeing it rise through the ranks. In fact, they called it a spectacular 7-year rise. Now, it all started less than 20 years ago when our pal, Mikhail Saakashvili, who is the first free market president of the country, he'll be speaking at our Nomad Capitalist live conference next year. He came in and basically slashed taxes from 21 down to 6, and then I believe it went down to 5, flattened all the tax rates, put some of the stuff in the Constitution to where you can't just change things. And so the Heritage Foundation gives Georgia big props for lower taxes, basically got rid of corruption. Those are the big things in favor of it. Now, certainly the danger in a country like Georgia is as they rise up the rankings and they get a little too comfortable, sometimes you'll see a country like this, cozy up a little bit too much to the west and start rising taxes and making things more difficult. But for my experience in the country, I still think very low bureaucracy, very low corruption. And so those are good things if you want to start a business. Number 16, Lithuania. In the European Union, the Heritage Foundation calls it one of the best performers in the EU. They have trade freedom, they've lowered regulations, they've attracted businesses. Certainly Estonia, in the same part of the world, has been more outspoken with its e-residence program, with catering to digital nomads, with its corporate tax policies. But you know what Estonia has done? They've inspired other countries in the Baltics and actually other countries around the world to adopt a similar tax-friendly model, and Lithuania has been one of those countries that has been good at reforming. They rank number 16, 1 spot above the United States. Coming in at number 18, 1 spot below the United States, is the United Arab Emirates. Of course, everyone knows that there is a very favorable tax policy. That was one of the rankings that made the UAE so favorable. I think they got like a 99.2 out of 100 because essentially, for the most part, almost no one is paying taxes. They did introduce a VAT a while back, but very favorable. Good labor freedom, good business environment, good fiscal health of the country. Those are all things that they mentioned. People sometimes look at the UAE, is this place stable? Well, if you believe these rankings, they said the country has good fiscal health. So that was a positive thing that made it come in at 18. Number 21, my honeymoon spot, Mauritius. Tax freedom, relatively low tax rates, opportunities if you're doing business offshore to pay relatively little taxes. We've talked about how onshore is the new offshore. They said that government integrity is going up. Obviously, you'll see countries around the world where there has been corruption or there have been problems in the government. And you'll see some countries are cleaning up their acts. And I think you have to give them credit for that. And so those are the things that the report has talked about with Mauritius. Business freedom is pretty open. Certainly, any country is going to have its share of issues, but those are the things that were highlighted that made Mauritius, off the coast of Africa, rank at number 21. Number 24 is another country that we talk about quite often, which is Malaysia. And the report talks about the economic expansion of the country. They've really done a great job in Malaysia with the level of development. People who have spent time in other parts of Southeast Asia are often surprised when they see just how developed Malaysia is, and I think the country's done a great job with that. The report also credits government spending. They say that that's relatively reasonable. They say tax policies are relatively reasonable. Again, the report is largely talking to, I think, larger businesses. So if you're just running your own small one-man shop or selling stuff on Amazon, you're probably not going to come and incorporate in mainland Malaysia. Now, the country does have its own version of a tax haven, Labuan. They also talked about good property rights, and that's something that I think a lot of people are concerned about when they're buying property overseas. The report credits good property ownership rights. Malaysia being one of the only countries in Asia where you can legally own land as a foreigner. That's another benefit. So relatively open market. They said the country, relatively decent fiscal health and tax policies. Malaysia comes in at number 24. Number 33 is one that you may have seen talked about in passing in the Wall Street Journal or even on YouTube by people who talk about world markets, and that's Rwanda. It is the one real standout on the continent of Africa. Obviously, Mauritius is part of Africa, but on the continent of Africa, Rwanda has really gone from obviously having a lot of problems to now becoming a place that they quote as opening up to business, relatively moderate taxes. They've said that there are still some challenges. A lot of processes have been made easier in terms of opening a business, getting utilities turned on, that kind of stuff. On the other hand, some processes have actually been made more difficult. But overall, they said, hey, the country is opening up. They are putting in place good trade policies. They're keeping taxes relatively reasonable. And among many African countries, it is a standout. Number 34, the last country out of the top 37 that you might be surprised to hear is Armenia. The report says they're basically up in everything. If you look at the red arrows versus the green arrows, they've got pretty much all green arrows. They've been reducing regulations, reducing corruption. I will add, taxes have been going down. They're looking at lowering corporate tax rates. They've got some pretty good tax policies, especially for small businesses and micro businesses. And so overall, all the metrics for Armenia have been going up. And so that's been a very positive development for the country. I think that some of what has been done in Georgia next door in terms of bringing in more tourism, bringing in more foreign investment is something that Armenia is now trying to do. They are catching up. They are making things a lot easier to do business. And people who are there have said they really feel the difference. So those are 8 countries that the Heritage Foundation and their Economic Freedom Index have talked about as being free or mostly free economies, but aren't the ones that typically get attention. Now, what's funny to me is, some of the top-rated economies include Denmark, for example. And they say, hey, it's free economy, easy to start a business, but obviously the taxes are insane, government spending is insane, it's going in the wrong direction. I really think that you're going to see in the coming years more Western countries falling down the list. I will say, I do like the list as, tracking all the different reasons that a country is economically free. I think if you're a small business owner, not all these reasons apply to you. Some of the procedures are more designed to, are you shipping big container ships of goods in and out of the country? And if you're just running a consulting business, if you're just running, again, an e-commerce store, some of those things may not apply to you. And some of the countries that are a little bit less free in this index may still be good places to either do business or to live. But for now, Singapore and Hong Kong continue to dominate the top 2 spots. Countries like Australia, Ireland stay at the top. But these countries stand out as ones that you might not have thought about, and I think have the potential to certainly do better in the years to come. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.